Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact Radio. Today is June 20th, 2016. It is the last day of spring and the first day of summer. We also have a full moon that is taking place, so it's a busy, busy day today. The sun has been in Gemini. That comes to an end today. It goes void, of course, here at our moon sign has been in Sagittarius, moving to Capricorn. It goes void, of course, today. 6:02 a.m. is when it went void, of course, and it's going to remain that way until we get to the next moon sign, which already occurred, going into Capricorn, 6:55 a.m. So our moon sign currently is in Capricorn, in Earth sign. Our sun sign is in Gemini until this afternoon when it makes its transition into the next sign, which would be Cancer. That's at 5:34 p.m. So over the course of the day, the aspects we're going to be looking at, we have an opposition between Mercury communication and Saturn focused discipline. It's 9:55 a.m. A little bit afternoon, we have a lesson, a square between communication of Mercury with Neptune, needing to take a new perspective on things, the way we're looking at the world. Again, another opposition, 1:51 p.m., this time with Venus opposing Capricorn. So looking at the physical world and how we could apply imagination to what we're seeing. And then finally, 5:34 p.m., we move into Cancer. So the signs and the things we're dealing with, sun sign currently Gemini, moving into Cancer later this afternoon. And all right, well, we seem to have a few challenges right there, so we're just going to move on. So we have a water sign coming up later for our sun sign, where we're going to be for the rest of the month, and earth sign for our moon sign for the day. Okay, if you want to do any follow-up on the wheel, there it is. 99.8% of the way full, making our way to the full moon, which will be here, or which has arrived, it looks like, 4:02 a.m., so we're just past the official full moon. The next new moon will take place on 4th of July. 4th of July, so we have 2 weeks between now and then. Should be an interesting 2-week period of time. 20th is also 14 Sivan on the Jewish calendar. The daily thought for 14 Sivan is, don't wait to be asked. Don't wait to be asked. There are those students who come to you and ask for guidance, and there are those who sit quietly and do not ask. Don't assume that those who are in need of guidance are the ones that ask. On the contrary, the very fact that a student does not ask tells you that this child is most in need of guidance. A teacher must go to the student, awaken the student, and say, "Why don't you bother me? My student, ask me, speak to me." Space weather, 452.0 kilometers per second is the solar wind. Planetary K index quiet at a 1. Coronal holes, not really too much in there. A few little ones over the face of the sun. M-class flare possibility is at 1%. X-class at 1. Geomagnetic storm activity in the mid-latitudes, 10%. Staying there over the next 24 to 48 hours, where it's also stable in the high latitudes as well, hanging at 15%. And finally, looking up at the sky tonight, says the bright moon shines in the southeast. At the end of twilight, it forms the bottom point of a very long flat triangle with Saturn about 30 degrees to its upper right and Altair about 30 degrees to its upper left. Happy solstice, the sun reaches its northernmost declination in Earth's sky at 6:34 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's 3:34 p.m. California time. That's the official start of summer. And then it begins at 6 months, returns southward. The moment is when summer begins in the northern hemisphere, winter into southern hemisphere. Okay. So there you go. That's what's going on for the course of today. We've got the first day of summer, the winter solstice, summer solstice. It's that solstice period between the time of the longest day of the year today, and then we're going to start shortening things. If you look at the world, either way, whether you're looking at it as flat globe, flat Earth, or a globe Earth, either way, this is the period of time when there is a transition taking place in the sun. Both models can show you exactly that the sun is making the change that it is making. In both cases, the northern and southern hemisphere do apply. It's just a way in which they're laid out on the actual grid itself. So it doesn't matter which way you're looking at it. Solstice time is here because this applies either way. All right, there you go. UFO news is up next.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. 4 good stories today. 4 good stories. Story number 1. This has to do with a sighting of this white pyramid. This is up in the clouds. It is above Batavia, Illinois. Here we have a little object in question here. We have something else out here. Not sure what that is either. So we have multiple objects here. And this definitely looks pyramidal shaped, doesn't it? So what is that up in the clouds? Recent video posted in MUFON. Black UFO seen moving around the rooftops of the area, but there are some other mysterious things. Small UFO with a white pyramid-shaped cloud. Is it a coincidence? Probably not. UFO with actual pilots often need a wingman, much like U.S. military demands the fighter pilots. The witness says, unedited witness statement, I am sending this directly from my iPhone. Unedited, we just took the video of a UFO. Me and my 2 kids were leaving Chili's parking lot. I began to joke with them that it was a perfect evening to see a UFO. I believe in UFOs, but my kids are totally skeptical about it. We jump in the car. I looked, I saw a light. I continued to joke with him. So look, there, UFO, ha ha ha. But it turns out that it was only a joke. We continued to watch it as it rapidly started to approach us, and then the light started to dim out, and we could see a dark form over it. My son then started to literally freak out. The thing came about 300 meters from us, and it was a dark, squared, with rounded corner thing cruising the sky, no sound whatsoever. Video doesn't reflect even 10% of the clarity of the sighting. Unfortunately, phone cameras are horrible, specifically at dark, but it was so clear to us it seemed to be the size of a car just cruising there with almost the same color as the background. My son is still shaking and never believed in anything paranormal. I'm available to give details if you need. Okay? So there you go. Shaking is a reaction to somebody getting hit with a dose of reality. This is going on out there. So if we don't get skeptical, then we don't get hit so hard when reality smacks us. 2 craft having a rendezvous at point L1, 1 million miles away from Earth, or so we're told. This took place on the 19th of June. Witness says it looks like 2 craft are having a rendezvous at point L1, 1 million miles away from Earth, pictured by the SOHO satellite camera LASCO 3. Okay, again, that's all based upon the supposition that this sun here is 93 million miles away. If you think the sun is 93 million miles away, then we can look at these things and start to assess them. Distances of millions of miles. millions of miles. I personally don't think that the sun is 93 million miles away. Therefore, I don't think that this image we're seeing here is millions of miles away either. But it is something interesting to look at nonetheless. Crop Circle took place June 12th, a farm in Germany, Berlin. Interesting formation here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these little circle doodads outside of the center, seventh one. Okay. This is really all that we've. I don't think there's anything more to this one than what you're already seeing. Nope. All of these things definitely are indicating some sort of cyclic pattern taking place, some sort of energies of some sort. All right, moving on. The genetic study appears to confirm ancient alien lineage of ancient Egyptians, advanced alien lineage of ancient Egyptians. There have been talks about an advanced alien race being responsible for incredible structures of ancient Egypt, such as pyramids, for quite some time now. According to the related theory, the designers and builders of these pyramids had a substantial connection with beings outside the Earth, the planet Earth. Stuart Fleshman, a comparative geonomics, assistant professor at the Swiss University of Cairo, published the results of their 7-year study that mapped the genomes of 9 ancient Egyptian pharaohs. Their findings have the potential to change the world's history books and humanity's understanding of our role in the universe. Fleshman and his team of scientists started this potentially incredible find when they subjected the samples of the ancient DNA to polymerase chain reaction, a process usually used to replicate and amplify a copy of a piece of DNA. The technique offers a far clearer picture to researchers of someone's genetic fingerprint. After an initial test, the more exciting things seemed to happen. All examples except for one returned with a somewhat interesting but typical result. The source of the DNA sample from Akhenaten, a 14th century BC pharaoh, and his father, Tutankhamun, was a little fragment of desiccated brain tissue. The test was repeated using a bone tissue. All tests obtained the same results, but none of them came back completely normal. CXPAC5 gene is one of the culprits of an anomaly being discovered. The gene is responsible for cortex growth. The prevalence of the CXPAC gene is not usual in Akhenaten. It suggests that he had a higher cranial capacity to house a far larger cortex. The mutation could be an explanation of the human brain to grow like Akhenaten. However, despite the breakthroughs in genetic science, no technique has been able to support such a theory. Could the finding of Akhenaten simply point to the evidence of ancient genetic manipulation on a human subject, possibly the work of ancient advanced alien beings? Fleshman explained that the only 2 processes that can expend telomerase, a genetic enzyme, namely an extreme aging or extreme mutation based on archaeological and genetic data. Akhenaten Amenhotep the fourth lived for around 45 years, which is way insufficient to consume all the chromosomal telomerase. The explanation leaves behind the mutation theory, but still a possible explanation. Another fascinating piece of finding can be found in microscopic photographs of osseous tissue from the skull of Akhenaten. When compared to the different mummy of a similar age, Akhenaten's sample revealed that he had far denser and basically different at the nanoscopic scale. It means that Akhenaten had increased strength of the skull bones, which would be an indicator of the raise in brain development. Okay, very interesting story about Egypt's connection to UFOs, as we have been informed about for some time. And here is a book that might interest you called The Reality of the UFO and Extraterrestrials. Grant Cameron is the world's leading researcher on the subject of UFOs. and the UF presidency. He has visited numerous government archives, interviewed countless officials, and written articles for years at his website, presidentialufo.com. T. Scott Crane earned his BS degree from Penn State University, after which he became a state section director from the Mutual UFO Network. He has written dozens of articles for publication in the U.S. and worldwide. This is the most important book ever written on the clandestine world of UFO cover-up. Grant Cameron and Scott Crane do more than demonstrate the reality of extraterrestrial presence on Earth through tenacious investigation and applicable research. They shine a light on the CIA, NSA, Air Force, Navy, and other inside groups that have managed this secret for decades. Their conclusion is inescapable and shocking. This is a secret that the insiders themselves struggle to understand and contain. It goes on to say government agencies at various times perceive a need to release some UFO information to the public, some definitely not at all. How do they do it? Always via avenues that leave no one at risk. That means ensuring that there is no direct connection between the agency and whoever is doing the actual releasing. It also means the necessity of mixing in some false information. It means ultimately to tell the truth, but to tell it slant until there is a full disclosure of UFO ET reality. Deniability will remain paramount to those in possession of this great secret. Okay, so there you go. There you go. That is our UFO news. I will be back, and we shall continue on. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brothers watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if I land and two if I see? And I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
Alrighty. moving on, continuing on. So it's been a little while since I've done the show. It's been about last time was on the 7th. I need to take a little break. I had gotten to a milestone for myself, 1,500 shows. I've been going since 2009. Most of the time, I've gone without a break. So as time goes by and I've addressed so many subjects, time to time I need to take a pause for the cause, so to speak. I need to take a break to observe things, see what's going on. Because I just talk and talk and talk when I'm on the show here, when I'm presenting this information, but sometimes I need to shut up and I need to listen to what's going on in the world, pay attention to the various events, try to put them together. Because there is something going on in the world that should be concerning to all of us. There's a major problem taking place, and we have blinders on. And I don't know how you feel about that, but it's quite frustrating to watch and see the whole process happening. We have political candidates which are bringing out issues. One in particular, Donald Trump, who is really affecting others in a way that maybe hadn't been expected, because he's presenting information and he's asking questions that the general public thinks about but isn't addressing. And so he's got a lot of people thinking, got a lot of people thinking. So I want to bring up some of these issues. I'm not going to go into the candidates. Okay, you know who the candidates are. I'm going to bring up the issues because I want us to take a good, hard look at this and perhaps use this as a point where we can move forward in our thinking. So the first thing I'm going to look at here is the term political correctness. Politically incorrect redirects here also. Okay, it says political correctness, adjective, politically correct, commonly abbreviated to PC. It's a term in which modern usage is used to describe language, policies, or measures which are intended not to offend or disadvantage any particular group of people in society. In the media, the term is generally used as a pejorative, implying that these policies are excessive. The term had only scattered usage before 1990s, usually as an ironic self-description, but entered more mainstream usage in the United States when it was the subject of a series of articles in the New York Times. The phrase was widely used in the debate about Ellen Bloom's 1987 book, The Closing of the American Mind, and gave further currency in response to Roger Kimball's tenured radicals and conservative author Dinesh D'Souza's 1991 book, A Liberal Education, in which he condemned what he saw as liberal efforts to advance self-victimization, multiculturalization through language, affirmative action, and changes to the context of school and university curricula. Commentators on the left have said the conservatives pushed the term in order to divert attention from the more substantive matters of discrimination and a broader culture war against liberalism. They also argue that conservatives have their own forms of political correctness, which are generally ignored by conservative commentators. Okay, politically correctness. What is this? So we've decided in society that politics is going to be important and we're going to determine our correctness according to politics. But politics, as we've gotten to know it, is so shady and corrupt. So we're going to base our correctness on the shadiness and corruptness of the political system? Really? And we're going to think that's going to work for us because we're going to think that this is the way that we should live our life? That it makes sense? It makes no sense. This political correctness is the thing that is tying our hands behind our back. It's the thing that's hurting us. It's definitely the thing that is hurting us. We need to get past it. Let's look at some further definitions. Here's a Merriam-Webster dictionary. Simple definition of politically correct, agreeing with the idea that people should be careful not to use language or behavior in a way that could offend a particular group of people. Conforming to a belief that language and practices which could offend political sensibilities should be eliminated. Political sensibilities. Okay. So, we don't want to offend political sensibilities here by speaking things that are politically incorrect, do we? Or so we're told. You know what? This is just nonsense, basically. It's a way of pigeonholing ourselves into language. And the more that we've become offended, the more that we feel that we have to be more politically correct. Who's becoming offended? The politicians. You know who should become offended? The people should be offended by what the politicians are doing. We should never be politically correct because this political correctness is the thing that has taken us down the tubes. Political correctness. You know what? There used to be something else we had in place of political correctness. It was a common sense phrase: sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me, because we weren't afraid of speaking the truth. But now we don't want to speak the truth because we might offend some group. We might offend some group because they don't really take the time to understand what's going on. So we have a bunch of people running around in the world uninformed, uninformed about what's going on. So here's one of the latest terms that is out there: profiling. It's one of the terms that's out there because Donald Trump brought this up, and now people are saying, oh, Donald Trump wants to profile people. Well, what's the big deal about profiling? Let's talk about profiling here. So before people out there get too high and mighty about profiling, let me show you how each and every one of you does profiling and will continue to do profiling the rest of your life. And maybe once you realize that, you'll stop worrying about someone's political correctness and their definition of profiling, and you'll just get on with life. Profiling. As you could see, there's many different types of profiling. Profiling of information, DNA profiling, forensic profiling, offender profiling, profiling in software engineering, racial profiling, sexual orientation profiling, and geographic profiling. But what is this profiling? Simple definition: the act or process of learning information about someone based on what is already known. The act or practice of regarding particular people as more likely to commit crimes because of their appearance, their race, etc. Full definition of profiling: the act or process of extrapolating information about a person based on known traits or tendencies. The actor suspecting or targeting a person on the basis of observed characteristics or behavior. So, it includes the word observe, because profiling is just an extension of our observation. We look at things, we observe them, and based on what we observed, we describe them. And we put these descriptions into categories so we can categorize information. Without profiling, we'd all be pretty much stuck without being able to categorize any information whatsoever. So we live in a world where we say we have to profile in order to understand something. Well, before you start thinking profiling is a bad thing, let me ask you, do you have a Facebook page? Does your Facebook page have a profile? Guess what? When you go to Facebook page and you look at somebody else's profile, you're profiling. When you go look at somebody's profile to see what they look like, if they're acceptable, whether you want to friend them or not, you're profiling them. If you signed up for a dating site, I don't care what dating site it is, you sign up for a dating site, you fill out a profile. And then when you go to look to see who it is you want to go on a date with, you look at other profiles, which means you're profiling. On and on and on. When you pick a college of a profile that fits best for you. When you pick a job in the world, you look at the profiles available of the types of jobs. You see, profiling is what we do. It's how we categorize information. Now we have an issue because we're concerned that some of these immigrants coming into America are causing problems. Not all of them are causing problems. We know that's not true. But we do know that some of them are causing problems. So the question I ask is, how do we determine which ones are causing the problems or not? What do? Do we just, close our eyes and just randomly pick? Or do we look with our eyes and observe where the problems are coming from? We see that there's a problem with some of the immigrants. Now, the problem we have is they are coming from the same part of the world. Coming from the same part of the world, they have similar cultural identities, similar things that they wear. So when observing somebody from those parts of the country, it's easy to observe them wearing similar clothing or maybe having similar hairstyles or maybe the color of their skin is similar. Guess what? That's just observing who and what they're about. It's not being racial. It's not being discriminatory. It's observing. We have 1.2 billion Muslims. It's a lot of Muslims, a lot of people in the religion. It's obviously has a lot of value to a lot of people. But estimates, intelligence agency estimates, say that there's as many as 10% of that particular group that are radical. 10% that are radical, extreme, which means that they're going to take the words that are in their particular book, the Quran, and they're going to follow them to extreme measures. Some of these extremes are killing those who they don't believe follow along with their line of thinking. 10% of 1.25 billion is well over 100 million. That means there's potentially 100 million radicals who want to go out and radically expand their ideas into the world. Now, how are they going to expand their ideas into the world? They're doing it the same way they did in 622 when Muhammad and his band of followers went into other countries. You know how they did it? They disguised themselves as migrants and they went in as refugees into other countries. I know. Did you ever hear of this? Do you ever hear of anybody doing this? Sneaking in with refugees. It's completely unheard of, right? Except that time in 622, and that's exactly the way that Muhammad and his group did it. And here it is in 2016 doing the same thing. Yet we're so caught up in political correctness that we are not knowing how to deal with it. We're so caught up in saying, oh, we can't profile somebody, that when we observe someone from that part of the country, looking the way people from that part of the country look, speaking the language that the people of that part of the country speak, dressing the way that they dress, when we observe this, we've now come to the point where we criticize ourselves saying, oh, no, we're wrong. We're not allowed to observe such things. It's just a coincidence that we're observing people from that part of the world looking the way that they do. Please give me a break. Okay, we know where the problem is. The problem is a radical problem. Now, when we look at the videos available online, we hear various speakers in the Muslim Islamic community speaking about this issue, saying this isn't a problem of radical Islam. This is the way Islam is. They believe in the things they believe in, and that's it. So there's no radicalization. It's just normal thought. Normal thought seems to want to kill those things that get in their way. The normal thought amongst them is that it's okay to rape and pillage, because that is what Muhammad did. It's okay to take young children as wives, because that's what Muhammad did. It's okay to be a despicable individual and to go out and kill and maim others that aren't like you, because that's what Muhammad did. And if we keep believing these things, we're going to eventually find ourselves in a big problem, because the way that Muhammad did things was very much a threat. You ever hear the Marine Corps song? From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. You know what they were doing in Tripoli? Fighting the Muslims, the Musulmen. It's been going back a long while. You know why Marines wear and are called leathernecks? Because of the big leather collars that they had upon their uniforms to protect them from getting their heads chopped off from the Muslims. See, the problem's been going on for a while, my friends. It's going on for a while, yet we're led to believe that this is something new and we have to include everybody. Well, sure, we want to include everybody, but we don't want to include the people who are causing a problem. Let's say that you decided to have a party and you told your friends that they could bring over who they wanted. and you had this party and people came to your house that you didn't know, but you're okay with that because everybody's going to have a good time. But then some of these people who you don't know that were invited into your house, they start breaking things and they start stealing things and they start abusing some of your other guests. What do? Do you tell them to leave the party, or you just ignore their behavior? Tell them to leave the party, of course. Well, that's what any sensible person would do. But we're not doing that. Why? Because the very problem maker that we have is the one who's in office, the administration. Which brings me to another piece here. This is part of the political correctness because we're using political correctness and we're not looking at the issues. We have a man in office who's the Antichrist. Here's another, Buraq. His name is Barack Hussein Obama. Buraq was the name of a steed in Islamic mythology, a creature from the heavens that transported the prophets. Most notably, Buraq carried the Islamic prophet Muhammad from Mecca to Jerusalem and back during the Isra and Mi'raj, or night journey, as recounted in Hadith literature. So we have, and here's another piece right here. Obama is named after Muhammad's horse. The name Buraq, also spelled in this variety of ways, it represents two distinct Arabic and Hebrew given names, one derived from the Semitic root BRK and the other from BRQ. BRQ means lightning. Remember Jesus, Luke 10, verse 18, he saw lightning, Satan falling like lightning from the heights, which translates into Barack Obama. It also means to shine, to lighten, to open widely. Buraq in Arabic is the horse that purportedly carried Muhammad from Mecca to Jerusalem and back during the night journey. So, bottom line of all of this is we have a connection between Buraq and the Muslims. Yet another one. See, we have a man in office who's a Muslim, my friends. He's a Muslim. He's a terrorist. He's connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. Anybody at this point in time who doesn't know that or see that, well, you've been fooled, and you're continuing to fool yourself to pretend it doesn't exist. But while you're pretending that this isn't real, while you're pretending that the man in office really isn't the Muslim that he actually is, he's destroying your country. He's destroying America. And he's continuing to do so while laughing. Did you hear his last correspondence speech? What did he say at the beginning? The fall of the Republic never looked better. Kind of a weird thing to say for a president. Glad to see the fall of the Republic. Then making a joke about doing a red wedding on the people in the room there that were opposing him. A red wedding means you slit the throat of the enemies or you kill your enemies. These are the jokes he's making. If anybody other than him would make these jokes, but he hides behind the fact that he's 6% of a black man. And the black community apparently only needs to have a black man be 6% and actually to support them. Because they all listen to what Martin Luther King said, which was, don't judge a man by the color of his skin, but by the content of their character. And apparently 6.25% is enough color of the skin to be able to override any of the content of the character. Or so it seems. And so we're in this situation that our political correctness of not wanting to call somebody out because the color of their skin might get you lumped in with some other idea or some other discrimination that they want to throw your way is killing us. We have a party, the Democratic Party. Out of them came the KKK. Out of them came the continued desire to want to push slavery through. All the bad things that are going on have come out of the Democratic Party. And yet you still have people who are hurt by that party over and over and over, still join that party. How anybody that looks at that party and understands they're a party of slavery, how anybody who is African American would then join that party is beyond me. How anybody that is out there that supports Hillary Clinton that is gay and then at the same time looks at who her backers are and supporters and realizes that she supports and takes money from countries that kills gays and treats women as second-class citizens, how any woman or person that's part of the LGBT community, how they could throw support is beyond me. But it's because people are closing their eyes, they're closing their ears, they're allowing the political correctness to get to them so they don't offend anybody else. And in the meantime, they're being screwed over by the very administration that is supposed to be helping them. See, this is a big problem, and I wanted to bring these things up today because we have an important time coming up. We have the 4th of July. My friends, you may laugh when I say this, but unless we get our act together, this could be the very last 4th of July that we have. Our country is at stake right now. I don't know if you realize that, but flags are being burned. People are disrespecting this country. We have more and more migration coming in. More and more of it is including those who are causing problems because they're sneaking in. And you know the bad thing about this? It gives a bad name to all of those who really do need help as refugees. It gives a bad name because now we have to look at who are these refugees coming in. We have to look at them a little closer because the problem makers are sneaking in with them. So if we have to use profiling, if we have to use our skills of observation to observe the behavior of these people coming across from these other worlds, then that's what we have to do. No different than if we were to go onto Facebook and we were wanting to friend somebody. We have to look at their profile or a dating profile. So we need to understand, my friends, this political correctness is killing us, and it's not going to lead us to good places. Here's one other piece to leave you with in this regards. 51% of U.S. Muslims want Sharia law. 51% of U.S. Muslims want Sharia law. You want Sharia law? Sharia law says women are second-class citizens. You don't drive cars. You wear the burqas. You're subservient to the men. Are you ready for that lifestyle, women? Are you ready to be subservient to the men? Are you ready to give up your driver's license and all your freedoms here? Because if Sharia law is imposed, that's exactly what will happen. Do you know that last week the Senate passed a bill, an extension and things that were attached to the NDAA? And you know amongst them was that women 18 to 35 are now going to have to register for the draft. And this bill begins to take effect in October 1st. So it's conceivable that women could have to start registering the draft in October if this is accurate, this information of this bill. Did you know that? Did you know that women are going to have to signing up? You see, when we're not paying attention, these things get slipped by. If we allow them to slip by and stick Sharia law into what we're doing, it changes everything, ladies. It changes everything. I think maybe you need to take a good hard look at what this is about before you start supporting it. Because, again, our country's going down the tubes because we're not paying attention and we're allowing all this nonsense to play itself out. So, we need to make some really big, important decisions in our life. Here's an article which kind of plays to that idea. You've heard of the second Earth. Dolores Cannon talked about the idea of a second Earth. Well, it says it's already here. Which world will you choose? In regard to the new Earth, your ability to perceive reality determines which world you are living in. What we sometimes feel like muddled in a third-dimensional reality, we are transitioning between two worlds, 3D Earth and New Earth. According to Julia Cannon, daughter of the late past life regression hypnotherapist Dolores Cannon, the universe is simple and only requires you to believe in the new Earth that has already been created. How you choose to look at it determines what world you are in, stated Julia. It's all in your frame of mind. So if all these calamities are happening right now, does that mean we are still on the old Earth? Julia stated that the two Earths are superimposed right now, and the new Earth can see the old Earth, which is why we can see choice, because we are moving between the dimensions right now. When seeing war and other third-dimensional activities, Julia stated that the one must ask themselves, is this really happening in my world? Once you become emotionally invested into 3D realities, it becomes reality. Even the thought of being a transitional process creates the idea that it hasn't happened yet. One must believe in the shift and choose their own reality. All right, nice good video here with Dolores and her daughter Julia talking about the new earth. Again, choices, important choices we need to make. Where are we going to be in this process? Are we going to be caught up in all of the nonsense? Are we going to be caught up in the political correctness of a world that's falling apart? Because at the same time it's falling apart, it's always coming back together. We need to figure out which one, because there are going to be those who are going to choose the path that's falling apart. And that's okay. Let people choose that path. There are going to be others who are going to choose the path that's coming together, rebuilding. We just have to know where we fit in this time. We need to know, what our purpose is here. Okay? So, let's get to our message for today. This is from Archangel Gabriel. It's a message from yesterday. Here we go. Okay. Well, doesn't appear that it wants to play, so maybe we're on our own without this. Maybe we're on our own without the message for today. Alright, so while I'm trying to figure this out here, this is a very important time, my friends, that we're going through. I know I keep saying it, but it's because it's real. Okay, we're in the midst of something here. We're in the midst of a very important time in what's happening with our country. This could be a very different country come next year. This could be an extremely different country if we don't get ourselves on track with what is taking place. Okay? We need to get on track. We need to pay attention. We need not to buy into all of this nonsense that is affecting us. Right now, let me jump away for a few moments here. I gotta try to fix something. It's those little glitches that occur once you jump back in. I'll be right back.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace.
Archangel Gabriel Daily Message / Sunday, June 19, 2016 by Shelley Young. Acceptance is such an important element for creating comfort in your lives. It is essential in order to move into the things you wish to experience more of. Acceptance is a byproduct of faith and trust. When your faith and trust are deeply anchored, you naturally experience acceptance because you know that things are always divinely perfect. You remember that each person is a master in their own right, having the exact experiences they need for their growth and evolution. It allows you to apply that to yourself, understanding that your own mistakes led to a deeper experience of who you truly are and your soul's expansion. Acceptance leads to unconditional love, both for others and yourself, which effortlessly creates the flow of even more love in your life. Acceptance also allows you to move willingly with the flow. Because you are secure in the divine unfoldment of things, you become more comfortable in each now moment. Because you know things are taken care of, you are in an open space to receive, and also to notice and appreciate the magic all around you, which creates even more of what you desire. From allowing you to feel secure in your now, you experience both peace and patience. Do you see? Acceptance allows the universe to deliver to you. It fosters your relationships. It supports unconditional love. It moves you into peace and calm, and it celebrates the divinity in you and around you. It is the magic grease that supports your forward movement by keeping you out of resistance and the temptation to engage with what is unwanted. It is the essential element that brings to you all of the things you truly wish to experience. Archangel Gabriel.
All right, that's a good message here, the acceptance, because if we learn to accept what is going on in the world, to move past the lies and stuff, we're going to be better off, because then we'll be able to look at things, kind of laugh at life a little bit, laugh at the ridiculousness. Just take a deep breath, exhale, another breath, and exhale again. And another breath, and exhale. All right, let's just imagine ourselves walking through life, observing life. And as we observe life, let us understand that we are taking this information that we observe with our senses, with our eyes, and we're taking this information in and we're categorizing it, organizing it. And this process of organizing this information is simply how the mind works. So when we think of the idea of profiling, we simply realize it's a natural function of the mind to create profiles, categorization of information that we see so that we can understand it better. And so we begin to look at the realities of life and realize how the political correctness of the world twists around our realities, convincing us that what we see we really don't see. But as we observe life, we know what we see is real. We understand the lies that have been presented to us, so we simply focus on seeing through the illusion, to see the world of truth intertwined with all of the lies. And the more we focus on the truth, the more we become immersed in that world of truth, and the reality of truth. The more we drift away from the lies. And the more we stand in the truth away from the lies, the more confident, the more clear and focused we become. Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, Christ that flows through us, thank you for the blessings of this day. May our hearts be opened to feeling the love that you share with us. May our minds be open to see clearly that which is taking place in the world. And may we ever reside in the truthfulness of what is happening in our reality, that we might, through this truthfulness, see past any and all illusions trying to deceive us. So let's imagine ourselves continuing on this journey of observation. Let the subconscious mind continue to observe. And let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale, and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's it for today. I will be back with more information and news. I got some interviews this week that I think you will enjoy. In the meantime, just observe the world. Understand that the process that we're going through is a process of change, and we have to understand the difference between the truth and the lies because they're both existent in this world. Question is, are you going to be deceived, or are you going to be walking in the path of truth? It's all up to you and the way you perceive and the words and the things that you believe others. Listen to God and you'll know the truth. Listen to what man is trying to impose over God and you'll understand that therein is the problem. Trust God, my friends. Trust God. That is our answer to all of this. Thank you for being here. It's glad to be here again, and I will continue on as we move throughout the week. Enjoy this first day of summer. 3:34 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is officially when it begins. We are in a full moon for today. Lots of change going on. Roll with the changes, my friends. That's it. I love you. Keep loving each other, and I will talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.